Tonight, we want to introduce you to the brave healthcare heroes who dropped what they were doing here and headed to the middle of a war zone, Gaza, to try to take care of the wounded. They want the world to understand what's happening and not to forget about the children caught in the middle of this conflict, who barely understand and did not ask for. In tonight's Prime Focus, Tom Soufi Burridge has the gripping accounts from the hospitals in Gaza. And a warning to you, some viewers may find these images disturbing.
Open.
On the floor, surrounded by medics, a little boy is fighting for his life. It is a cramped, chaotic, but all too common scene in one of Gaza's only remaining hospitals. It's where nurse Brenda Maldonado from Washington State and other heroic staff are doing everything they can. The boy was hit by a car, not a bomb. But with the war bringing Gaza's healthcare system to its knees, Brenda and the team have few medical resources or options. Any patient in Gaza in a critical condition stands little chance. The pain for Brenda clear. The boy did not survive.
Heartbreakingly, we lost him. So every day since I've arrived, we've been watching young children die unnecessarily. It's heartbreaking, it's traumatic, and I wish that it would stop. Can you come set the ventilator, please?
For 2 weeks, the Al-Aqsa Hospital in Rafah in southern Gaza is Brenda's workplace.
As you can see, it is congested. There are 2 tents here that are holding patients outside of the hospital. And then as we go inside here, this is the lobby. This is the lobby of the hospital, but it is now being utilized as a patient ward. Because there is absolutely nowhere else to put the patients. And so here are the patients. It's very challenging taking care of people here. There is no privacy for the patients at all. It's very heartbreaking. The nursing staff is overwhelmed. Most of the nursing staff here have lost their homes. They've had to relocate. I was speaking with one doctor that has had to move 10 times during the war to seek safety.
There are children with amputated limbs, and on the floors of the cluttered wards, multiple patients with fresh shrapnel wounds.
When bombings happen, they don't just happen usually to one person. It's usually a dozen or 2 dozen people that have been struck by shrapnel, bombs, bullets, and so they arrive to the hospital 4, 5, 10 at a time. No, you need to leave that on, okay? Okay, it's helping you.
Brenda is working in Gaza with Chicago-based NGO Med Global.
Patients everywhere.
She sees the suffering, especially amongst the young, up close, in a place international journalists like us cannot access.
Most of the children have been 8 years and under with head traumas, and that just took their last breaths here in front of us. So it's deeply impacting, very heartbreaking, especially when the family is here grieving over their beautiful child that was just out in the street playing.
In another part of Rafah, New York surgeon Dr. Saeed, also with Med Global, is working in another hospital where families bed down in the stairwell. These are some of the few safe spaces in the Strip.
The smells that greet you when you walk through the hospital are the smells of cooking. And when you enter the wards, you smell sewage, you smell infection. Children running around the hospital, always with a smile on their face, greeting you, saying hello, how are you?
Dr. Saeed has also witnessed avoidable deaths of children. In Gaza, some of the victims of war and displacement are not killed by bullets or bombs.
The child fell into a pot of boiling water and ended up with scald burns through a large portion of her body. And knowing that that child will probably die either while I'm here or after I leave, that really broke my heart. Knowing that I can only spend a certain amount of time here, and what we have is limited in terms of supplies and the ability to provide the care that this child would otherwise get anywhere else.
Saeed tried to get 4-year-old Hala transferred to the US for treatment, but within days, she was dead.
These are supplies brought from the States.
When Dr. Saeed arrived in Gaza, he brought bags full of medicines, basic drugs, which he says the hospitals here are badly lacking.
The options that we have here are so limited because the instruments that we use are not delicate as we would use in the United States. Antibiotics are limited, medications are limited to treat pain. Where we're treating these children with just the basic pain medications like Tylenol when they may have a wound that's 20 centimeters gaping with exposed bone.
Back at the Al-Aqsa Hospital, Brenda speaking to us from a chaotic ER.
The emergency room is very busy and full right now. People are desperate. They want to find their loved ones. They want treatment. They're hurting. They're in pain.
The cramped conditions clear
Let me see if I can get out.
as they treat multiple casualties with serious head injuries.
This young man here has a traumatic brain injury.
Most of them just lying on the floor. After 7 months of war, specialist facilities and equipment in Gaza have been destroyed. But the youngest victims keep coming in. Around 26,000 kids have now been killed or injured in Gaza, says Save the Children.
Children, they seem to be impacted by a blast more, and they suffer from head injuries. And the really heartbreaking thing is that head injuries here are basically a death sentence.
I'm working in the resuscitation room of the emergency room. We're walking through one of the corridors, and as you can see, there are many patient beds here. They have completely run out of space.
As dire as the conditions are in Gaza, Brenda and Saeed also have to navigate life under bombs and gunfire.
At the hospital, there was a bombing very close.
There was an explosion at 2:30 in the morning that was so loud that I almost felt like my eardrums might pop.
From the surgeon's standpoint, having seen trauma in our training and practice, to sometimes put aside the life story of the patient and not be attached to their death or their suffering. Here, it's completely different. I've become attached to every single patient. It really affects me significantly, and it's very painful.
He's got intracranial pressure that's increasing, as well as his blood pressure is very high.
We need a ceasefire because there's beautiful children right now standing and looking at me as I'm doing this interview, and they deserve a life that is bomb-free and war-free.
Focus has now turned to Rafah, the city they were both in, which Israel says is Hamas's last stronghold and where Israeli forces have now started to push in. This Israeli strike hitting an encampment on the edge of Rafah just days ago, killing many children. The IDF called the strike a tragic incident that should not have happened.
Rafah and the south are extremely populated. There are children running around, large families living in tents. These people have already been displaced, and then to displace them again, they'll be left with even less.
We are not taking action soon enough, and there will be outbreaks of diseases very soon.
You're increasing the risk of famine, you're increasing the risk of disease. The children have no education, It's just creating a complete disaster. These children, the majority of them have smiles on their face despite losing sometimes all of their family members. So the question is, who's going to be caring for these orphans? Who's going to take them in?
Yeah, there is so much uncertainty and grief right now. Our thanks to Tom Soufi Burridge for that.